is Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16 meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galato. This is part 4 interview with Professor Mohammed Hassen about the Oromo and the Christian Kingdom of Ethiopia. In the last 3-part interview, we discussed about why Professor Mohammed chose the title, The Oromo and the Christian Kingdom of Ethiopia, different chapter of this book, about the benefit of learning history and the importance of power. Today, we look at how Oromo history written by others and how you can buy this book.
It was translated into German and then into French, into English. It was only in the 1940s. First, it was translated into Amharic, and then it was around 1990. It was translated into Amharic again by the late Alam Ishete, and in 2002, Professor Getachew Haile again translated it into Amharic. Basically, everyone who translated it, they want the Habashas to read about that aspect. Abba Bahare described the Oromos as enemies, as brutal enemies, basically as destroyers, as enemies of the Christians. And one of the reasons why his 12-page manuscript had such a staying power, this short document has such unbelievably staying power. Everyone who writes about the Oromo quotes it. In fact, this became the beginning of Oromo history. And what I really wanted to show was something very, very different. Oromos, Abba Bahare's version of Oromo history is one aspect. There is also another version that historians have overlooked. And it was to show that aspect, I basically devoted a chapter to him. Abba Bahare says, you have to know about these people, not because the Oromos are good people, but he said, we read histories of the Muslims who are our enemies. In other words, he is advising the elite at the court. Basically, you have, although these people are our enemies, you have to understand their strengths, the weakness of their society, turning it into strength, and then turning the tide against the Oromo. But it will be another 300 years, almost 300 years before the table was turned against the Oromo in the 1880s.
Comparing with the past, like 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, when you actually look at the moment, especially current, the master killer, does history actually repeating itself, or is there any difference when you actually comparing with the past?
Strictly speaking, history does not repeat itself in the same form. It repeats itself in a different form. Remember, societies change, time changes, everything changes. What I earlier implied is basically in the 19th century when the Oromo population were conquered, they lost their sovereignty, their independence. Basically, they became colonial subjects. They lost their sovereignty, they lost their rights, they lost their lands. Now today, the Oromos are removed in a broad daylight from their land. They are transformed into beggars in our own days, which really meant history of 19th and early 20th century in a different form, now under the cover of federal government, under the cover of the government of Oromia. Remember, it is the government of Oromia that the tools with which the TPLF the ruling party, basically the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front that controls Ethiopia, has been controlling Ethiopia since 1991. It basically uses the OPIDIO, the Oromo People's Organization, which it fabricated, which it created, and it is its own creature, and it is these creatures that have carried out its policies. Because if they don't carry out, it deals with them. Basically, it deals with them, and they have become the hands, the instruments of the those who want to darken the future of our people. Once, the history of our people is very much tied with the land. Remove them from the land, what is their future? Just imagine, there are no industries in Ethiopia that absorb this, in Oromia, to absorb these people who are displaced. They basically, many have already, thousands have already become beggars. If you talk to people who are coming from Finfinne or from Addis Ababa or from Hadama, most of the beggars, on the basis of friends coming, visiting, coming back, most of the beggars today in Addis Ababa, in Hadama, are Oromos. When I grew up as a young man and then went to school and then Haile Selassie University in Addis Ababa, there were very, very few Oromo beggars in those days. Most of the beggars were really people from the north. Now it is the Oromo population who are transformed into beggars. And if the present trend continues, the future of our people truly, truly worries me personally. And it should worry any conscious Oromo, because once our people are removed from their own land, their future is simply as dark as anything.
Yeah, it is a very sad story. Is there any hope that this will gonna end for Oromo soon?
There is always hope about the future. Hope if our people really stop bickering on all. The enemy always turns our people against each other. We victimize ourselves. Basically if our people stop victimizing each other over silly issues, over useless issues, not over big issues, and then unless they are able to develop an organization, remember what transforms people into formidable force. Just the best example, Eritrea has only about 4 million people. Tigray has 4 or 5 million. Remember, they developed formidable political organization, and in Eritrea they were able to defeat the Ethiopian government, establish an independent government. The TPLF was able to marshal huge military force and then was able to defeat the Derg and then simply took over Ethiopia and then using other PDOs for running the show. Unless our people develop organizations that is capable of marshalling their human and spiritual and material resources, if they are able to do that, there is nothing permanent in the world. Everything changes. Today, who are the weak could be strong tomorrow. It all depends on determination, on organizational capacity. If people organize themselves, understand what is at stake, take seriously about the future of their people, their children, then listen to each other and then focus on the enemy, not on each other. There is a better future, a formidable future, a bright future for the Oromo. There is absolutely no doubt about that in my mind. I have always believe that if the Oromo people understand, if they develop political consciousness, and then political consciousness always translates itself into an organization. political organization, military organization. Once the Oromo really become politically strong, militarily strong, remember we live in the world where the strong survives, the weak suffers, basically. And we have to create our own military strength, political strength, economic strength. Without that, no one takes you seriously. Foreign powers never pay any attention to you. The moment you become strong, everyone pays attention to you. Even people who oppress you, they take you seriously. They change their way. Military balance, military strength changes everything else. And let me leave you with this. People who are organized can never be victimized, cannot be removed from their land, and they turn the tide against those who oppress them.
That's a really good way of ending it. But finally, if people actually want to get this book, how are they going to get it?
Oh, that is a very good question. And if we know how many copies are needed, I can ask. The publishers are based in the United Kingdom as well as in the United States. The publishers can send, but how many copies are needed? People cannot, publishers, they are in the business of making profit, and if they send 10 or 20 copies all the way to Australia, what they get will really not even cover their expenses. And if people really order in a large number, definitely an arrangement can easily be made through the publishers to send the books to Melbourne, and then from there, a lot really depends on how many people are interested in the book. Our people generally talk, they talk, action is not there, and if they want to learn about history of their people, even, buying and giving it to foreigners, so that they understand. Remember, as I said earlier, it is us to educate others. First, we have to learn to educate others, basically. And if their heart is about what they talk, well, I leave the rest. And yes, an arrangement can be made, but it all depends on how many copies people look for.
Thank you very much, Professor. It is really interesting conversation we had about history. If people don't know about themselves, then they don't take themselves seriously. Thank you very much. I hope in the future we will have a really bigger discussion about Oromo history and what the future holds about Oromo as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Obali, for giving me this opportunity to say a few words about my book. Thank you.
If you are in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, November 7, 2015, Dr. Mohammed Hassen new book signing event, The Oromo and the Christian Kingdom of Ethiopia, 1300 to 1700. Saturday, November 7, 2015, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Lion of Judah Event Hall, 6202 Memorial Drive, Stone Mountain, Georgia, 30083. For more information, you can call 678-982-8427 or 678-687-9757.